Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Adreana Batrisyia binti Ismail with Matric number 2219606, and here is my video on demonstrating my SPSS analysis for the topic of our research on the impact of customer reviews and rating on online purchase decision of the skincare industry in Malaysia. So these are all the variables that we use in the code form. As example, RP stands for respondent profile, and then we have Q, which stands for quality, and then we have BI stands for brand image, and then also we have CR for customer review, and the last one is OPD, stands for online purchase decision. Okay, then we go to the data view. So these are all the number of respondents that we managed to collect. We have a total of 105 respondents for our research. So first thing first, for our SPSS analysis, the first thing that we do is the descriptive analysis. So this is where it provides a general overview of how the respondents answered each question related to their online skincare purchasing behavior. And each item, RP1 to RP9, represents a different aspect of the research, and that we can analyze their mean, median, mode, and range to understand how the responses varied. For example, RP5 or Respondent Profile 5, which is on the employment, it has the highest mean of 3.66, which shows that a large number of respondents agreed with the statement for that item, and its median is 4.0, which means that more than half of the respondents gave a rating of 4 or above, and its modes is also 4, which is the most frequent answer. Okay, so as you can see here, the first one is on RP1, which is the gender. So there are 30.5% male and 69.5% female for the respondents, and then for RP2 we have the age. So the highest is 75.2%, which respondents age between 25 to 29 years old. And then RP3, which is on the education, 83.8% of the respondents are in bachelor's degree. And then RP4, the allowance or income, most of the respondents are having an income of less than 1,000. And then we have RP5. Most of the respondents, 85.7%, are students. And then we have RP6, 98.1% of the respondents are Muslim. And then RP7, which on the ethnicity, there are 92.4% Malay, and the rest are divided into Chinese, Indian, and others. And then for RP8, the marital status, 90.5% of the respondents are single. And then the last one is RP9, 59% of the respondents is active and 41% is sedentary. And here is the pie chart for the respondent profile, which, as you can see, gender, most of it is female, and then age, most of the respondents are between 25 to 29 years old. And then education, most of the respondents are in bachelor's degree. Next, we have income or allowance. Most of the respondents are having income less than 1,000. And then the employment, most of the students are student. And then the religion, 98% of it is Muslim. And then the ethnicity, most of the respondents are Malay. And then the marital status, the respondents are all, most of it are single. And then the last one is on the lifestyle. Most of the respondents are active and the rest is sedentary. Okay, next is on the reliability test. So in order to check how reliable our questionnaire is, in other words, how consistent and trustworthy our items are, we ran a reliability analysis using Cronbach's alpha. So the result here, we have 0.973, which is a very high score and well above the acceptable threshold of 0.7. And this tells us that all 27 items in the survey are working really well together and are likely measuring the same concept. So this high level of internal consistency is a good sign because it means our survey is not random or unclear, and it's actually producing a solid data that we can trust. So under reliability test also, we have here item statistic, in which it has all the variable that we use. And then next we have inter-item correlation metrics. And then also we have summary item statistic, where it states all the mean, median, variance, and others. Okay, last part is on the item total statistics. So as you can see at the end, at the last column is where it says Cronbach's alpha if item deleted. So this is where if your Cronbach alpha at the first table I showed earlier, if your percentage is less than 0.7, and then here is where you're gonna adjust the part in which you can delete some or few of the questions based on the percentage that you want. So still, for the purposes of this project, the results show that our questionnaire is very reliable and the data collected from it are consistent enough to be used for deeper analysis like factor analysis as well as regression. Okay, next we move on to the exploratory factor analysis or EFA. So the first item that we will be analyzed is the KMO or Kaiser-Mayen alkene. So before we move on to the factor analysis, we need to make sure our dataset is suitable enough for it. And that is where the KMO and Bartlett's test of sphericity comes in. So the KMO value here, as you can see, it was 0.918, which falls under the excellent category. And this means that our sample size is more than good enough and the items are all sufficiently related to each other to be grouped into underlying factors. And then the Bartlett's test of sphericity also gave us a chi-square value of 2994.246 and the significance level is less than 0.001. So this result shows that the correlation between the items are not random and that they are likely meaningful patterns or factors that we can extract through the factor analysis. So in simple terms, I would say that both of these tests confirm that our data meets the requirement for factor analysis. And this is important because it tells us that we can move forward with confidence to explore how the different survey items group together. Okay, and then we have total variance explained. So the total variance explained table helps us to understand how much of the total information in our dataset can be captured or summarized by a few components. So from the table here, we can see that the first component alone initially explained a very large portion of the total variance, over 70%. However, once we applied the rotation, which helped it spread the explained variance more evenly across component, we ended up with a much better balance. Now the component 1 explains 34.79%, component 2 have 21.40%, and component 3 explains 18.27%, and the last component 4 explains 10.21% of the variance. And altogether, these four components account for 84.67% of the total variance, which is pretty high. And in simple terms, it means that just by looking at these four components, we can already understand that most of the important patterns in our original data without having to rely on all 13 original variables. So this result is a good sign because it confirms that the data that we use has clear structure and that it can be summarized efficiently using the factor analysis. Before any adjustment, our cumulative percentage is 71.835% and that the component is only 3, but we actually have a 4 component, hence why we need to do some adjustment for this. So after we have do a bit of adjustment by adding the variable to become 4, then we have the cumulative percentage of 75.35%, which is, as you can see, it becomes higher, which means it's good. So last but not least, we have a rotated component matrix. So after confirming our data was suitable enough for factor analysis using the KMO and Bartlett test, we used principal component analysis (PCA) to find the patterns in the survey items. So the rotated component matrix shows how each item groups into different components based on their similarities. So as you can see here, the outcome is a bit messy because there are cross-load value here and there. And then after some adjustment, it becomes better, but still there are few components that have same value like Q2, if I'm not mistaken. I can't really see, I'm sorry. And then after a few more adjustment, it become better and better. And then here, wow, it's prettier, but still have a bit here and there. And we still need to do a few adjustment. And then okay, here it looks perfect, but you need to see closely because there are Q1 and Q2 in between the BI component, so it needs to be deleted. And then we do the adjustment by deleting those 2 questions, then it will become a perfect one. As you can see, there are CR, and then OPD, and then the BI. So this is the one that we want. So using the Varimax rotation, we identified 4 components. First, all CR items, CR1 to CR6, loaded strongly onto component 1 with value above 0.65, meaning they are closely related and likely measure the same idea. and in this case it falls under customer reviews. And then similarly, OPD1 until OPD5 loaded on component 2, indicating they measure a different concept, which is likely the online purchase decision, our dependent variable. And then we have BI4 and BI5 were grouped under component 3, and BI7 was loaded separately on component 4, suggesting they reflect different aspects of brand image. And most of the items had strong loading values, which is above 0.6, showing a clear relationship with their component and proving the survey items are grouped in a meaningful way. And this confirms that the items within each group are measuring similar ideas and that the survey has good construct validity, which means it effectively captures the key factors that we intended to study for our research.